Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome to GoldwingDocs. You got questions, we got answers. Episode 17 coming up next. All right, first question from Danny Thompson. Hello, Scott. I have a 2012 GL 1800. I'm getting the 19 code. So that's, you have a code in the computer. You can have it display on the dashboard by it flashes the FI light. And it's not F1, it's FI lights. And it'll flash a 1 and then it'll flash 9 times. So anyway, that is saying pulse generator issue. So he's asking, is it easy to swap out the pulse generator and get to the plug without tearing the bike down from the top? Okay, so the question is, he needs to get to the pulse generator, which on the 1800 is way down in the front there. If you have a look at the service manual, it says go down from the top, pull out the air filter, and so on. And actually, that's only the case if you have ABS. If you do have ABS, there's stuff in the front that's going to prevent this, so you really need to tear down the bike from the top, pull out the air box, all that, and get down to the pulse generator from the top. If you have a non-ABS bike, you can actually do it just by removing the front lower cover and the plastic upper cover, and that'll give you access to that. Hopefully you have a non-ABS bike and you're not looking at a major teardown just to get to that pulse generator. All right, Jimmy Pitry, very informative. Okay, I guess he's probably talking about another video. I was wondering if you have covered what would cause the LCD screen, air pump, and cruise control to stop working. All right, well, you didn't mention a model of bike. Because the air compressor is actually connected to the LCD on the 1500, I'm going to assume you're talking about a 1500. The air pump is actually controlled by the LCD. There's actually a connection from the LCD to the air pump control. So if one dies, the other dies. So there's a couple different things that you can look at. The first thing to look at is the ACC fuse, because it powers all those things. However, you're going to see some other things failed if that's not working, and maybe there are other things not working and you just haven't noticed it. The other thing that's in common between all three of those things you mentioned is one of the ground points, and it's called G100, and it's on the frame. Let's see if we can find it on here. It's located just above the dipstick. So if I open this up here and pull these covers off, we can see it. Actually, no, we can't. Unfortunately, it's up here. So it's right about here, and it's a ground point on the frame that runs from several different circuits onto a lug that is bolted right here. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to actually take this inner cover off here, which means you have to take this off in the front. And so it's a bit of work to get to it, but there is a ground point right here. It's called G100. I'll put a picture of it right here from the service manual. And that ground point is a common ground point for a lot of different systems, including those three that you mentioned. So if that ground is bad, all three of those systems are going to stop working. Let's put this back together and we'll get to the next question. Let's see how quickly I can do this on camera. Whew, look at that. Okay, hopefully that can help you out a little bit, gives you at least somewhere to start looking. Common Man 50 writes, "Hi Scott, I like your introduction to your Goldwing 1500. I'm particularly interested to know how you installed the spotlight behind the forks, the round pair. I hope you could share some pictures of the install and actual placement of the lights. Thanks in advance." Okay, well, yes. Okay, so the lights he's actually referring to are some Markland lights that I used to have right here, and I'm sorry about the bugs. I know my bike is just covered in bugs and filth, but you know, it is what it is. So in the front of my bike here, I've got some lights on either side. I used to have these Markland lights that were halogen, and they were big round lights like this. And then I swapped those for these LED lights. But if you can actually look here, the brackets that I have them mounted to, I kept from the original Markland lights. These are no longer available. They haven't been made in years, but I'll see if I can get up in there and see where they actually hook up. So what you see here is a set of metal brackets, and they come out and then they bend around and they go up there, and then they actually bolt onto using a U-bracket to the frame of the fairing itself. So you can see the bolts there through that U-bolt or that U-bracket there that take that bracket and bring it down and around and up here, and then there's a hole that the light actually mounts on there. So as I mentioned, they have not been made in many, many years, and you're probably not going to find them anywhere, but hopefully what I just showed you is enough that you could actually maybe fabricate a set yourself. They're not that complicated. I know I've had quite a few people ask me how those things are actually mounted, so I thought I'd show you that to give you an idea. Okay, machine cob. I have a 1993 GL 1500 Aspencade. After riding 300 to 400 miles a day with a group, the next day would only die after starting. I put a new fuel pump in the bike from All Balls Racing prior to the big ride. After diagnosing the fuel pump had no power, I realized the ECM went bad. I ordered an ECM from a vendor online. However, I'm nervous about replacing the fuel pump. Which fuel pump won't blow another ECM up, or how can I prevent that? I remember at some point reading a post about diodes and relays, but I couldn't find it. Okay, so the ECU in the 1500 actually actuates the fuel pump. So there's actually a MOSFET transistor inside the ECU that turns on, and that's what supplies power to the fuel pump. That way the ECU can turn the fuel pump on and off as needed. If the bike falls over, the bank angle sensor sends a signal and it shuts off the fuel, so you aren't spewing fuel out everywhere. It only runs the fuel when the engine's actually running. So there's a number of reasons why it's run that way. However, the problem is that it is a transistor that's a MOSFET transistor, but it's a transistor that's actually directly driving that fuel pump. And if you put a fuel pump in that draws more current, or maybe your fuel pump seizes and it pulls more current than it's designed to, you can actually burn out the transistor inside the ECU. That doesn't mean your ECU is scrap, it just means the transistor in it has failed. We do have a member on our website, Virgil Mobile, who fixed this for another member, where he went in and actually disassembled the ECU, replaced that transistor, and it was all good again. So it doesn't mean their ECU is scrap. It can be fixed and rescued. But you've gone and bought another one, and you just want to make sure that it's not going to suffer the same fate, which is a valid concern. What I would probably do in your instance is I would put a relay in there. So basically a relay is a switch. The relay has a coil, which is an electromagnet, and then it has a switch. And when you supply current to the coil, it generates a magnetic field, which then closes the switch. The idea being the coil only draws a small amount of current, and the switch can then switch a large amount of current. So you put an relay in there, it can be just a standard SPST 20 amp standard automotive type relay. I'll put a link to one in the description below. Basically, you can have the ECU operate that relay. So it's the only load on the ECU is now that coil, which is a tiny amount of current compared to an electric motor. The relay then can switch up to 20 amps, and there's no way your fuel pump is going to draw anywhere near 20 amps. That way you'll protect your ECU. So if anything ever goes wrong with a fuel pump in the future, even if it's a dead short, the worst that can happen, it'll burn out that relay and you can replace it for 10 bucks. I would caution you that the power going to the relay that powers the pump itself, run it on a fused line from the battery. So take a line from the battery, put, say, I don't know what off the top of my head what the fuel pump draws. It might be 5 amps. Whatever the current of the fuel pump is that it draws, add maybe 20% of that and size the fuse that way. So if it was if it was drawing 8 amps, I would put maybe a 10 amp fuse in there. And make sure it's a slow blow fuse, because motors, they do draw a surge of current when they first start up. That way you're protected, so that if something does burn up, it doesn't light your bike on fire, especially a fuel pump. You don't want that lighting on fire. Instead of, it'll just blow the fuse instead. So I hope that's of some assistance to you. If you like what you saw here today, please click like, subscribe, click that little bell down below. It really helps us out when you do that, and you get notified every time we post one of these fantastic videos. Also, leave a comment in the description below if you have any questions or comments on anything you saw here, questions you want answered in the future, and please don't forget to go check the old GoldwingDocs forum. 91,000 members we have there. Goldwing owners just like you, friendly people just waiting to say hi. Thanks for watching. So if you put a relay in there, it could be any kind of standard. So if you put a relay in there, hi, I'm Scott. This is GoldwingDocs. Nah. Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome to GoldwingDocs episode 19. Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome to GoldwingDocs Q&A episode. Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome to You Got Questions, We Got Answers episode 19 from... Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome to GoldwingDocs You Got Questions, We Got Answers episode 17.